We are living in an era of unprecedented planetary change. Societies everywhere are experiencing fundamental demographic, social, economic, political, and technological transformations. Expectations for education are greater than ever before. Today, learners of all ages and backgrounds, whether living in developed or less developed countries, in dense urban communities or in the most remote rural areas, need knowledge and skills to navigate an increasingly complex world as individuals and as part of larger communities. In education, innovators are finding new ways to prepare learners for these challenges. New programs are reaching out to learners in every community to ensure that no one is left behind. Educators are finding new ways to engage learners and to nurture their passion for learning throughout life. Innovators are making the most of new technologies to create connections and share knowledge. But these standalone projects are not enough. We need to harness our collective intelligence. How can we better integrate education within broader strategies for development? What models of innovation can inspire education today? What are the right drivers to achieve effective reform in education? How can we share and adapt the most innovative projects and policies? What might learning be like in the future? Changing societies, changing education.
Hello and welcome to our final session of WISE 2011. Welcome Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I hope I find you all with your head buzzing with ideas, your pockets full of cards from interesting contacts that you've made. I know that I'm certainly in that position. But also, most important of all, that you feel fired up, that you're going to go back and put into practice some of these innovations, some of these great ideas that we've been hearing about over the past 3 days, when we've explored a very broad range of subjects related to education. Many of you would have heard Gordon Brown's call to action this morning, that we should all be marching for education. But I think, on a serious note, there is, I think has emerged a consensus that there is a need for a paradigm change, that many people are making changes on the ground, but we need a greater scale. We need to accelerate that change. This morning, our panelists considered who, what, where, and how learners might be learning in the longer term. But the question is how to achieve that. Well, on our panel this afternoon, I have got three, I think what I would describe as real game changers. They are people from very different backgrounds and perspectives who have been instrumental in pushing through big changes in the face of huge obstacles. We are very fortunate to have with us this afternoon Jimmy Wales, the founder of Wikipedia, Dr. Fasli Jalal, former Vice Minister for Education in Indonesia. Sorry, I'd written them down in the wrong order. I didn't mean it like that. It's rather ungallant of me, as I should be introducing the women first. Dr. Michèle Pierre-Louis, who is the former Prime Minister of Haiti, Executive Director of the Knowledge and Freedom Foundation. And last but certainly not least, we have one of the WISE learners with us on the panel. And it is Sarah Buhmaid. And as you probably know, the Learners Voice students have been here to listen, share their points of view, and I know that Sarah, who is a medical student at Weill Cornell Medical School here in Doha, does have some questions for our panelists. In fact, she might put me out of a job, actually, because her questions are pretty pertinent, I can tell you. Jimmy Wales, let me start with you. Everyone thought 10 years ago, when you came up with the idea of putting all of human knowledge online, that you were a bit crazy, maybe even messianic, really. But you've managed. Wikipedia is now the 7th most visited website in the world, 270 languages, 19 million, 90 million articles, or 90 million? Or
just hit 20 million.
20 million, unbelievable. I want to know, can somebody make sure Jimmy's mic is on when he goes out? But let me, I'll just finish my question. What are the lessons that you've learned along the way? Because how did you ignore the naysayers, the people who said you'll never be able to do it?
Well, I think in large part, I was able to ignore what few naysayers there were because we came from the open source software community, the free software community, and people there were already doing amazing and remarkable things, building all the great software that really runs the internet, using collaborative work together, using free licensing. And that community really believed that it was possible. And so the people who would have been naysayers basically didn't even know we existed. So that made it a little bit easier in the early days. Certainly there were times, I remember once I was at, this was about probably 4 years into the work at Wikipedia. I was at a conference at the UN in Geneva, and somebody said, but what's your business model? And at this time we didn't know, and I said, well, to some extent we don't need a business model, we're just doing it. We're a community and we are having fun building this thing. We'll need some money at some point, but we'll figure that out as we go along. And
I mean, did you ever imagine that it would be this big?
Well, I remember looking at a list of the top 100 websites around the time I started Wikipedia and seeing an education and reference style site at about number 50 at that time. And I thought, well, if we do a really good job, we might make it into the top 100 or even the top 50. Today, your numbers are a little out of date. We're the 5th most popular website in the world. And we have over 420 million people using the site every month. So I thought it could be big, but I never really imagined how high it could go. And
just a personal question. I mean, would you say that you are somebody who's quite stubborn, quite determined?
Yeah, I am. It's mainly, I always say I'm a carpenter, not an architect. And so I get asked all of these big, deep, visionary guru questions about the future of the internet, and I'm just sort of a guy, you just give me some hammer and nails and I'll start to build something. And that's what I really feel like I've done.
Well, I think we're all very grateful to you. Let me turn now to you, Michèle Pierre-Louis. You face a Sisyphean task, which is rebuilding the education system in Haiti, which, as I understand, was not in a good state anyway before the earthquake. I mean, how have you, I know this is a really huge question, but you know, how do you overcome all those obstacles? Because there must be days when you wake up and you think, this is just too big.
I'm glad you chose the Sisyphean experience, because I usually use it in Haiti. You know, I have to pull my rock up the mountain, look at it going down, and be ready to pull it up again. But as Camus said, let us imagine Sisyphus happy. Anyway, there are some life experiences that are very important and that leave a last-long impression on you. I'll start by telling you a short story. I was a national trainer for a major adult literacy program in Haiti in the mid-1980s. And one day I had that bold idea. I went to a rural community and I said, let me try to read the allegory of the cave from Plato to the peasants. And I was amazed to see the results. They were all enthusiastic about it. And at the end, I told them, you know, it's a 2,000-year-old allegory, story. And they could not believe it. And one peasant, an old peasant, told me, you see, Madame Michèle, our life would have changed if we were educated. Look at our environment. I have 5 children. I want them to be educated. And I have a 3-year-old girl. I want her to go to school. And that made such an impression on me that when 10 years later, I opened the foundation with the support of the Open Society Institute, I decided that I had to get involved in education, but also in community development and work with a very systemic approach. That's why, with the support of partners, I created an early childhood education, which was a very innovative program at the time, because in Haiti, school starts at 6. which means any child is left behind if he cannot pay for a private a preschool. So it took us 12 years to convince the Ministry of Education to adopt that preschool program, and we're very proud to say that now our trainers, which work really with a very innovative program, taking the most innovative child psychologists like Piaget, Vygotsky, Erickson, to create that model, and it's been adopted by the ministry. But it took us 12 years of pushing the rock. And then we created a library program, about 50 libraries throughout the country in the most remote areas, also bringing solar energy, connectivity, computers, so that kids that perhaps it takes them a whole day to get to Port-au-Prince can travel throughout the world and learn about China, about India, about what goes on in the United States, what the diaspora is doing. So it's amazing to see all those kids. And this came from that particular experience I had 10 years before.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Dr. Fasli Jalal, you were instrumental in reforming the standards of teaching, I should say, in Indonesia, and also the status of teachers. How did you go about making teaching an attractive profession again to young people? Because I think when you started, it wasn't, was it?
5 years ago, the Indonesian teachers they are not very proud about their profession. The salary is very low. The academic qualification also very low. Many of them only graduate from high school and then being upgraded into Diploma 2. And only about half of them are graduate from the teacher training program. And then for the new candidate of teachers, the incoming to the teacher training university only choosing at the third choice rather than the first or the second choice. So we enacted teacher law in 2005. We ensure that they will be upgraded. All teachers, 3.4 million of Indonesian teachers, should be upgraded to undergraduate level, 4 years post-secondary. And then once they are graduating from teacher training, 4-year teacher training, and then we bring them to teacher certification process to prove that they are professional. And then we double the salary once they prove they are professional until the retirement. Yeah. Okay. Because of that, teachers now, about 500,000 of Indonesian teachers going to academic qualification upgrading, and 300,000 per year going to certification process. When we do all kind of technology and also distance learning, open university is the largest in Indonesia right now. We have the 630,000 students. 80% of them are coming from teachers from many remote areas, going for open university.
So that's distance learning.
Distance learning, but we have to make sure that in the holiday time, they can come to the campus, they have the boarding, and also they have the interaction with the professor or lecturer. And then now we have the triple or quadruple candidate to become a student of teacher training. And we have now for the first time, top 10 of the graduate of high school wanting to be a teachers. And teachers are proud of their profession. And we now trying to make sure that does this kind of the policy and financial burden have an impact on learning outcome. Our question right now, how to incentivize the teachers, because most of the education financing go to teacher salary and go to teacher professional incentive. Only leave about 20% for quality, for innovation. But if all 3.4 million teachers are themselves is innovator and also very creative because their salary have been doubled. And I think we can see that even we invest a lot in human resources because teacher is very important in education, because teachers also becoming role model. Teachers can, facilitate the dream of the student and also become the community development agent to the surrounding. So we will see school at the center of civilization, a center of the community empowerment, but also school will be a place for joyful learning, for student-centered learning, and also relevant to the surrounding and culture. Thank you.
Well, that's fantastic, but it does beg the question. I mean, this costs money. When you were sitting around the cabinet table with your other ministers, how did you convince them to put all that money in? How did, you know, because you're getting a bigger slice of the cake, aren't you?
Yeah. Just to give you some comparison, in 2002, the total budget of our ministry at central level only 22 Indonesian rupiah trillion, 22 trillion. By 2015, when we certified all of the 3.4 million Indonesian teachers, and just to pay for the teacher professional incentive, the government should allocate budget 90 trillion rupiah, almost 4 times than the total budget of the ministry 4 years ago. So you can see why we do that, because we amend the constitution. So in the constitution, at least 20% should be devoted to education. So we have secured 20% annually. And then with the teacher law, we ensure that once teacher being certified, they are entitled to the doubling of their salary. So Ministry of Finance, Planning Agency just agree.
They can't do it because it's gone through the parliament, gone through the constitution.
Exactly.
Very clever. Sarah, let me come to you. And all of us around this table are, you know, how can I put it politely? You know, we're well into our careers. You are just starting out. I mean, what are your dreams, if you like, for the future?
I just want to say I'm very humbled to be here, and I'm very proud to be representing the learner's voice. But as to my dreams of the future, so I'm going to take you back a little bit 6 years ago when I decided to become a doctor. It's a big decision, you might imagine, and I excitedly went and exchanged it with my family. My parents, thank God, were very supportive, but the rest of my family weren't. And if you're not familiar with the Arab culture, the whole family is very, very, very tight-knit, and everyone has to have a say. So the rest of the family were like, no, you know, it's so hard, it's so long, why do you have to do this? We're well off, you don't need the money. And then, oh, you're never going to get married, men are going to be intimidated by your brain, why are you doing this to yourself? You're practically ostracizing yourself from society. And I was like, okay, fine. And I went on, and I went through med school, and thankfully I'm graduating in May. So my view, and throughout med school, I became, because of stemming from my personal experience, I became very passionate about women empowerment and allowing women to have to have equal rights, kind of, and to have the option to pursue higher education, because that's the kind of resistance I faced. So throughout med school, I took part in the student recruitment team, you know, aiming at women, going to high schools, talking to them, showing them that a local, just like yourself, went through it, did it, and was on the verge of success, so you can do it too. So I'm hoping to kind of take my message further, go on with women empowerment, hopefully get some inspiration from our panel members, and I hope to achieve my goal, to empower women, to empower the locals, to change what society perceives, and to change kind of the fear that society has from success and education and intelligence. So I'm hoping to achieve that.
Well, we wish you all the best, and we're very glad to have you here with us today.